Good morning, class. So for today's lecture, I'll be discussing one of the commonly seen arthritis in the clinic. So we will start off with the case. So this is a case of a 70-year-old female who complained of knee pain and hand pain. So our patient's history started 1 year prior to consult when the patient complains of occasional knee pain which is tolerable and resolves without any medication. Until 6 months prior to consult, the patient again experienced knee pain, noted when climbing stairs and walking for a prolonged period of time. She also noted that there are stiffness of the fingers, which lasts for 5 to 10 minutes. She then self-medicated with anti-inflammatory drugs, which provided temporary relief. So since then, there was no resolution of the symptoms, especially the knee pain of our patient. Thus, the patient decided to seek consult to a rheumatologist. So for the pertinent past medical history, the patient is hypertensive on amlodipine 5 milligrams once a day. So on physical exam, when doing physical exam on any musculoskeletal complaints, first we do inspection. So when you look at the hands of our patient, you will notice on the DIP joints from the 2nd to the 5th DIP that there are nodal hypertrophy. So take a look at the both bilateral hands that there are nodal hypertrophy on the DIP joints. And when you take a look at the PIP joints, you take a look at the 4th and 5th PIP bilateral, and you will also notice that there are nodal hypertrophy. So take note that there are no signs of erythema. And when palpating the involved joints, you will notice that there is no signs of inflammation. The description is more of hardness or bony hypertrophy. So we call the DIP nodal hypertrophy more of Heberden's node, and the nodal hypertrophy on the PIP joints is more of Bouchard's node. And when we do the physical exam on both knees, you will notice that there is bow-legging on inspection. There are no signs of inflammation. There are no erythema and no swelling. And on palpation of both knees, you will feel crepitations. So with the clinical profile of our patient based on the history of our patient and on the current physical examination, our diagnosis is osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis is the most common type of arthritis, and unfortunately, it affects millions of people worldwide. It is the leading cause of disability in elderly, and that's why it is also being called degenerative joint disease. It is common in middle-aged and elderly patients and uncommon under age 40. And usually when we talk about osteoarthritis, it predominantly involves weight-bearing joints. Osteoarthritis is a joint failure in which all structure of the joint undergone pathologic change. So it primarily affects the hyaline cartilage. And a prerequisite for a joint failure will be hyaline articular cartilage loss. So this is accompanied by thickness and sclerosis of the subchondral bony plate, outgrowth of osteophytes at the joint margin, meniscal degeneration, stretching of the articulations in the joint. So these are the risk factors for osteoarthritis. So joint vulnerability and joint loading are the two major factors contributing to the development of osteoarthritis. So for the systemic factors affecting joint vulnerability, increased age. So age is the most potent risk factors for osteoarthritis. Female gender. So the prevalence of osteoarthritis is seen higher among female than males. Racial or ethnic factors. Genetic susceptibility. So osteoarthritis is heritable disease, but heritability is more of joint specific. So one good example of this will be hand osteoarthritis. And nutritional factors. How about the intrinsic joint vulnerability? So previous damage from surgery, so like meniscectomy, so if the patient undergone surgery already. Bridging muscle weakness. So Muscles that bridge the joint becomes weaker with age, especially the quadricep muscles. Increasing bone density. So person with increase in bone density is at high risk of osteoarthritis. Malalignment. So if there is anatomic abnormality or developmental abnormality which is started during childhood, and proprioceptive deficiencies. How about the use of loading factors acting on joints? So obesity is a potent risk factor in the development of knee osteoarthritis. The development and progression of the disease is mediated mostly through the increased loading in weight-bearing joints that occur in overweight patients. And injurious physical activities. So repetitive joint use, which can be due to either occupation of the patient, so occupational joint use, or leisure time physical activities. So for example, the patient loves running. So leisure time physical activities. So combination of these factors, so the systemic, intrinsic, and the loading factors, they are susceptible to develop osteoarthritis and the progression of its disease. So these are the commonly affected joints in patients with osteoarthritis. So if you take a look at the picture, so we have involvement of the cervical and lumbosacral spine. So we call it spondylosis. We have hip involvement, knee, the first MTP. So on the hands, we have distal and the DIP joints and base of the thumb. And usually, the wrist, the MCP, the elbow, and the ankles are spared. So they are not usually involved in osteoarthritis. So joint pain is the most common complaint in patients with osteoarthritis, especially in the weight-bearing joints, so in the knees and the hip. And the joint pain in osteoarthritis is more of activity-related, so either during activity or just after joint use. So in the early stages of osteoarthritis, the pain is episodic, while in progressive stage, the pain is continuous, it is bothersome at night, and there is stiffness. So the most common deformity seen in patients with osteoarthritis, especially the knee osteoarthritis, is the genovarum deformity. And unless symptoms and signs such as inflammatory arthritis, synovial fluid, exam, and blood tests are not routinely indicated. So radiographic exam may be normal in early osteoarthritis, but the typical X-ray changes in late osteoarthritis will be decrease in the joint space, there will be sclerosis and osteophytes formation. So in patient with hand osteoarthritis, the physical findings will be the Heberden's node seen in the DIP joints and the Bouchard nodes. So they are more of bony enlargement or bony hypertrophy, and even they are deforming, they are rarely disabling. Unlike in patients with rheumatoid arthritis, as you can see in rheumatoid arthritis, very actively swollen joint, inflamed joint, and unfortunately, because of the active inflammation, the patient is unable to do functions of daily living because of markedly swollen joints. And if you do a radiographic examination of this hand osteoarthritis, you can see that there is decreased joint space in the DIP joints. I do hope you can appreciate it. There are signs of sclerosis and also osteophytes formation. So the goals of treatment in patients with osteoarthritis will be to alleviate the pain and to minimize loss of physical function. So we have non-pharmacotherapy, we have pharmacotherapy, and surgery. So for the non-pharmacotherapy, the important thing is you have to educate our patients. So you have to tell them or advise them avoid painful activities that overload the joint or the one that precipitates the joint pain. So like the one in our picture, for example, if the patient loves to run every day as part of their routine or as part of their exercise, climbing up and down the stairs, you have to advise them to, as much as possible, avoid these painful activities. Then improve strength and conditioning of muscles that bridge the joint. So to optimize function of these muscles, because these are the supporting structures of the knees. And unloading the joint. So we can unload the joint by using brace or a splint or cane or a crutch. So exercise is very important in patients with osteoarthritis because it improves the function of muscles surrounding the joint. Unfortunately, in patients with knee and hip osteoarthritis, weight-bearing activities can trigger joint pains, and because of the joint pains, they tend to have a sedentary lifestyle. So if a patient has sedentary lifestyle, the more they weaken the structures that surrounding the joints. That's why you have to emphasize the exercises. So low-impact exercises, especially the water, aerobic, and water resistance training are one of the effective exercises, so especially in knee osteoarthritis. So you have to individualize the exercise regimen in each patient. Weight reduction. So in weight reduction, if the patient has decreased in weight, it helps unload the weight in the knee and the hip, which eventually lessen the impact on the joint. And correction of malalignment. So either surgically or bracing can relieve the pain, and use of orthotics and footwear. So for the pharmacotherapy, these pharmacotherapy are given for symptomatic relief of joint pains. So for acetaminophen, the acetaminophen is the initial analgesic of choice for knee, for hip, and hand osteoarthritis. And then how about the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and the COX-2 inhibitors? So we have topical and oral solution of this medication. You can give this for a short period of time, or you can give this as needed basis. But remember that you have to be careful in giving this patient because eventually they can cause complications, especially upper GI bleed, or you have to carefully screen the patient of any comorbidities, especially patient with chronic renal insufficiency or chronic kidney disease. Then how about the opioid analgesic? Opioid analgesic is another option still if the patient has inadequate response with other medication. And then how about the injections? We have the glucocorticoid and hyaluronic intraarticular injections. So for glucocorticoid, it is case-to-case basis. It is not usually injected patient left and right, but you have to screen the patient which patient will benefit the most. So usually glucocorticoid injection is best if there are signs of inflammation, so there are signs of active synovitis or acute flare of osteoarthritis. And then the hyaluronic acid injection, it is more of a symptom relief of the patient. So usually even after injection, there are patients that still experience discomfort after even injection of this hyaluronic acid. So it's usually given in knee and hip osteoarthritis. And if all of the above option failed and the patient is still in pain, then the patient complains of limitation in ambulation and it already affects the patient's quality of life. Then the best option is to undergo surgery in the form of total joint arthroplasty. So best discuss with the orthopedic surgeon. So with that, I think that is my last slide. So thank you for listening.